Hello, and welcome to Waves of YA, a podcast focused on young adult literacy, brought to you by the Ocean County Library's Teen Literacy Workgroup.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Waves of YA. Today, we have a very special guest with us today, YA author Mima Tipper. Mima, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My first novel, Cat's Creek Summer, was just released earlier in the summer, and I am half Greek, half American, and am writing from that place for this first novel. And I'm happy to be here. Thanks so much for welcoming me.
Thank you so much for being here. My name is Summer. I'm a librarian for teenagers at the Long Beach Island branch of Ocean County Library. Let's start off by giving our listeners a brief description of your book. We will try our best to stay away from too many spoilers, but we'll see what happens.
Okay, great. So Cat's Creek Summer is telling the story of soon-to-be high school freshman Kat Baker, who is planning to spend the summer after 8th grade training with the high school cross-country team. She feels like that's going to be a great way for her to enter high school and make a big splash and just, get off to the right start. And then her Greek mother tells her that she and her brother James are going to go with their mother to Greece for the summer to spend the summer with the Greek side of the family in a pretty tiny rustic fishing village in Greece. And of course, Kat, is determined to keep her running dream alive in Greece. So she tries that, but there's cultural issues and there's intense heat during the day. So she kind of finds herself launching a pretty risky plan to continue her training, and comes up across some challenges with some of the Greeks and some of the nice Greeks and some of the not so nice Greeks, and pretty quickly learns that that the heart of dreams is really knowing herself and getting to know her family, and even her experience with first love is really at the heart of this summer for her. And so it's really up to her to to kind of claim her the heritage that's uniquely hers during this summer. So that's a brief bit about what the book is about.
Wonderful. It sounds like it's about a lot. We have coming of age, we have family, we have, you said, a little bit of romance, we have athletic pursuits. And you said you come from a partly Greek family. Did your own experiences in that culture shape this book, writing it?
Yes, very, very much so. I'll tell you that, the inspiration behind the book was that I attended a Vermont College of Fine Arts to get a master's, an MFA. And in my first semester, I just sort of like a little backstory. I'm a huge fantasy nerd. I love fantasy YA. I love fantasy adult books, middle grade books. And my goal was to write a fantasy novel and start that with my MFA. And in my first semester, I worked with a great advisor, and we spent the semester working on my Dark Fairies and Magical World novel. And at the end of it, she, was giving me kind of the post-semester debrief, and she just asked me if I would consider writing something more personal. And I was a little bit taken aback by her what she said. I thought, oh, she must really didn't like my fantasy story, but I don't think that was it. I think she just really she's a contemporary realistic writer, and she just wondered, and it just got me thinking about what could I write from my personal, cache of story and experience that would be more personal. And the first thing I thought was, I'm half Greek, and I spent a lot of summers growing up in Greece with the Greek side of the family, and might make a really interesting starting point for a story. And once I started writing that tale, or a story based on those memories, this story just really came out, and I had a lot of fun with it, and really had to dig very deeply into my memories to create fiction from a lot of very personal experiences and people and family in my life.
So do any of the things that Kat goes through in the book, did those happen to you as a child? If that's not too personal a question.
Well, I will say that pretty much almost everything that happens in this book actually happened to me or somebody else, and not all in the same summer. So I really kind of dug very deeply into those memories and experiences to create a story that I thought would be interesting. And Kat is very much the main character. Is, pretty much when I started the book, my first thought was, well, my main character is going to be as opposite to me at that age as possible. Like, I just thought of who I was at that age, and then said, what would be the exact opposite of me at that age? And then I took that and put her in a lot of the same situations that real me found myself in, to see how she would deal with things and what choices she would make. And I found that to be it was very informative and cathartic to think about, to have that character going through some of those times and experiences and meeting people and responding to them and asking questions. I found my character asking a lot of questions about, why did this happen? And why was this the way it was? And why did this person treat you this way? Just things like that. And it was very interesting, and gave me a lot to think about while I was writing and going through different drafts. So I guess if that makes sense, there's a lot of emotional truth, but it's all fiction.
Yeah, that is really interesting that you took your own personality and you were like, what is the opposite of me? But undergoing those same experiences. That is really cool. So you weren't a high school track star.
No, far from it. And I had no plans. I was I was just very much a person who, was very meek and mild and did what I was told. And I didn't really question what was going on. And I just thought, I actually, Kat, even having a lot of conversations about this book, I find her to be a lot more like my daughter, who is, she's in her 20s now. But, I went through her high school years, and I was very inspired by my daughter and a lot of her friends, and kind of what I was seeing happening in a more contemporary high school arena of young women, being a lot more proactive in their choices and thoughts and plans, and sometimes being forced to be more proactive. Like, you can choose this or this if you want to. If you want to have an after school activity, you can choose athletics or drama. And I really wanted I wanted to come up with a character that I thought would, even if she's not making good choices all the time, she's trying hard to figure things out and being active in her pursuit of what she wants or what she thinks she wants. So I wanted that to be, obviously fiction characters sometimes don't do what you want them to do for the story. They say, no, that's not who I am. I'm not going to behave that way. But I really wanted her to be proactive in her choices.
So she's very strong-willed. Is she a bit of a rebel?
I think she kind of comes to that. I don't think she kind of starts in that place where she's thinking about being rebellious, but she's, going through some things with her family, and in a place where she's being told, like, this is what we're doing. Like, what you want to do is important, but not as important as what the family needs to do. And you're just going to come along. And I think she finds herself sort of repeatedly backed into a place where she has to be a little rebellious, and has to be rebellious about how she proceeds to try to accomplish her own goals. So
sometimes that has to happen that way.
yeah, and some people have asked, they're like, oh, but she makes some kind of challenging and scary choices, and I'm like, well, she's a 14-year-old girl.
That's life.
She's going to be learning some things and trying some things that are maybe not going to come out the way she wants them to. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm sure she will learn a lot from that. I remember you saying that when Kat's trying to do her training in Greece, that it's extremely hot. I don't know much about the climate in Greece, but what is the life like there during a Greek summer?
Well, even now, I follow a lot of sites on Instagram, but when I was growing up and we'd spend summers, the siesta time, which I mention in the book, really from sun up until sundown, it is really blisteringly hot in the parts of the country that I spent time in and that Kat spends time in. And that's why people take that siesta time during the hottest part of the day, like from lunchtime to, sundown pretty much almost, to just not be outside because it's really, really hot and kind of debilitatingly so if you're trying to be athletic. I mean, especially if you're really not used to it. I mean, I'm sure there are many Greek athletes who have trained in these kinds of conditions and they've figured out ways. And I actually wrote an article about, running in hot weather running tips and what things that she could have been thinking of if she'd really my character could have been thinking of. But of course she wasn't researching that type of thing because she really didn't know. But even now I mean, we were there a few years ago and being in Athens, and even being in the islands, it was just pretty miserably hot during the day. You're just like, you get like woozy, just, being
Oh,
out there. It's
goodness.
like, wow.
That is good
So,
to know. I've never been, I'm not very well traveled, but I'm hoping to travel more in my life. But that is good to know if I ever go
well,
to
summer
Greece.
months. Yeah, summer months. I mean, like my brother, when we were planning that trip a few years ago, my older brother was like, well, don't ask me to go to Greece after June 15th. Like, I'm not going. It's, July and August. No, there's no way. And yeah, it's pretty intense. And so I really wanted to capitalize on that. And I also was thinking of just myself because I also, run and have been a runner pretty seriously from my younger years. Over the years, I've run a lot. And even being like in Florida in the summertime, it's very humid there, but there were days when I would try to run, after work or whatever, mid-afternoon and just be like, wow, this is really not good. I'm
Yeah.
just so hot.
Yeah, that
Anyway.
couldn't be me either. I'm very kind of, even here in New Jersey, we get fairly hot summers, but I can't go out in the afternoon in the direct sunlight. I'll faint.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're not used to it, so I just wanted to kind of put her in that scenario of like, wow, this is not even really an option during daylight hours. This is going to be really challenging, especially if you have
Hmm.
a schedule that you're trying to maintain, like well, I need to be training. I need to be progressing, not just taking a step at a time. So anyway, I thought that would
Yeah.
hopefully be a compelling scenario for her to make
Yeah,
some.
I think so. I think I'm excited to see if I think we'll all be excited to see if she actually, co is able to achieve her goal. I noticed also, people who will see the cover of your book will see there is, it's a picture of Kat running with a silhouette of, I believe, the goddess Artemis behind her.
In,
Is that correct?
indeed, it is indeed. It is
So
indeed.
is she throughout the book, does she find inspiration in the Greek pantheon of
Uh,
gods?
she does. She does. Well, I'd say mostly Kat is not super clued into her Greek heritage. That's part of her journey in this book, but she does come across an Artemis image that turns out to be inspiring to her, but in a way that is like my son made me this wonderful sticker, and I kept thinking to myself that Kat's thinking eventually starts thinking, what would Artemis do? Like, what would Artemis do in this situation? Like,
Hmm.
would she sit back and take it, or would she? And from what she learns about Artemis, she feels that this is a powerful goddess who really was, very independent and powerful and didn't bow to the patriarchy. So Kat, Greek mythology is very interesting in that way. There's a lot of
Yeah,
misogyny and patriarchy for sure, but there are some seriously strong female
yeah,
images in there that don't put up with much. So I would say
yeah.
Artemis falls into that category, but it also, so she was an inspiration, but she also became a little bit of a secret friend. And I don't know if you can remember, like, this is something about my fantasy nerddom, is that when I was young, I used to love reading books where there was a fantasy scenario where there was like a magical item, like a ring or a necklace or
Yeah.
a magical bow and arrow, um, and that the character could actually save the day because they had received this implement and were charged with the task to to save something or do something big. But then there's also the kind of realistic side where it's like there really isn't any magic. You have to make your own magic. That's sort of something that I feel like
Yeah.
it's an important lesson, and it can be a hard lesson if you really want magic, but it's still great to have inspiration. So I was sort of trying to play both sides of that coin, where I wanted her to be still at that young age where she really wants like a sign, like give me a
Hmm.
sign that I'm making the right choices. But it's like there's really not going to be a sign. You just have to decide when you're going to make your move, and just
Yeah.
you do what you're going to do, and that's part of the understanding and growing is and coming of age, is realizing that you make the magic. And even if you still wish there was, you wish Artemis would swoop in and take over, but
Yeah, that would be
that's
easier.
yeah. So I wanted to sort of play with that that young person life where they're still hoping there's going to be something tangible that is going to help, and then they have to realize, it's really up to me. I gotta do this myself. So anyway.
Awesome. Yeah, I really like that aspect. I was always into Greek mythology when I was younger, and I still am in a lot of ways. And there's so much material to delve through. Do you have like
Yes.
a favorite myth from that world?
Uh, well, I have to say that probably my myths that I come back to again and again are, I mean, I love the story of Artemis, although it's a fairly violent one. But
Yeah.
I really love the like the Hades Persephone myth and the Orpheus Eurydice myth.
Hmm.
Just for a lot of different reasons. Those are probably myths that I kind of find myself looking for other versions and coming back to again and again. So those are probably. I love Hades Town. I'm a huge Hades Town fan. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, love that show so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, and we're
uh,
living in the era of Greek retellings in fiction, so there's a lot to choose from. Some good, some bad, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think that one's a really good one. I'm kind of, even in fairy tales and fairy lore, I'm very much or magical lore, mythological lore. I'm
Hmm.
really I'm kind of a purist. I mean, I really it I don't enjoy the stories that just borrow kind of wholesale from any kind of lore, and aren't really honoring the real source material. Like they just
Hmm.
change it completely, and they're just like, just take a character and say, I'm just going to throw this character in this scenario.
Do you have new or slightly used prom dresses in good condition? Or do you know someone who wants to give away a prom dress? Starting January 2nd, the Ocean County Library invites you to donate your dresses during the annual prom dress collection. Donated dresses will be collected at all of the Ocean County Library branches until February 26th and will be available for free for students in 8th through 12th grade starting in March at our prom dress giveaways. Before you donate, please ensure that your dresses meet the following criteria: short or long styles from the last 5 years, gently used and clean dresses ready for attending prom. Please do not donate dresses with rips, tears, or stains. Also, please do not donate accessories, shoes, or purses. For more details, check out our website at theoceancountylibrary.org. Visit your local branch or call us at 732-349-6200. We thank you in advance for your donation.
Yeah, I have to
That
say I have to say I agree. I did get a little bee in my bonnet a little bit ago because there was a book coming out that was it was claimed to be about a retelling of a myth of Psyche. Um,
hmm
and I was very excited because I like that story. But they changed it and they made her like a warrior in some army. I
mm,
forget which one. And while I respect the artistic independence to do that, I did feel like it was unnecessary, and I would have rather seen something done with her story that was closer to the source material, like you said.
yeah, I just even like with vampire. I mean, I love vampire books and werewolf books, and I mean, really, I'm just fully bought into so many of
Hmm.
these stories, and they have such a unique mythologies that of from those stories and the lore, and I just really enjoy it when an author is able to truly honor the source material and like extrapolate from it. Like I have to say, I'm really fond of the Madeline Miller tales, the Circe tale, because it's like that's just a completely, she's just like picked at every nuance of the mythology around like Circe, that character, and extrapolated out from the material in her own way. But I feel like it's in a way that's like, yeah, that makes sense to me, in the realm of how any fantasy can truly make sense. It's like, that totally makes sense to me that this is how this character would behave and that this could happen. And I just really appreciate that. And I don't like it when characters are just, um, like one of the recent pet peeve was just like reading any story that has like Medusa in it as a modern character. It's like, but Percy has killed her. It's like,
I see.
You can't just use this character. She's dead. Like you
I
have
see.
to find a way to, either talk about her life before she meets up with him, but you can't just like put her into modern, just throw her in because she's the Gorgon that turns everyone to stone. It's like, that type of thing drives me crazy. It's just like,
yeah, it's funny to see everyone's different pet peeves.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you've heard of this book, but I read it earlier this year. It's called Wearing the Lion by John Wiswell. It was honestly I think it's going to be one of my best books of the year. It's a semi-retelling of the myth of Heracles.
Okay.
Which I didn't know too much about. And it goes through all his labors, the labors of Hercules. Although they say, I keep saying Hercules because that's how I heard it said growing up. But I know
right,
it's Heracles, which is how they say it in the book, and they tell you why. And it's so interesting because it takes this story that is very, from on the surface level, like very masculine and macho, and it gives it this incredible gentleness, like, because obviously he's doing his trials because he is grieving for the loss of his family, but it has him, like, instead of, you might dislike this because it diverts from the source material, but instead of slaying the Nemean lion, he befriends it, and it sort of becomes his companion as they do these trials.
Well, I think if the author can make it work, can really make it work, because I think there can be other versions of tales where, certain things don't happen. Like one version might say, this is what happens to this lion, and this is how he gets the skin or whatever. And then another version might tell it a different way. So I do accept that. And, I don't know, it's just like, it really probably has to be story to story, but I just want to know that the writers like worked really hard to not just twist the story to make it work for their story, kind of, but is really trying to honor the material. So I don't know.
I really think the author did, because it fit the theme. The theme was like grief and betrayal and like for self-forgiveness, and Hera is one of the perspectives that's speaking, but Heracles is also one of the perspectives speaking, but oftentimes he's narrating the story as a prayer to Hera. So she's hearing him all this time, and she's obviously very upset with him because she doesn't like him very much. And she's dealing with her own grief and issues with her family.
Yeah, she's got a lot of issues.
And
sure.
And there's so much. It was such a good story. I think it did so much.
Cool.
This was a crazy
What's it called?
diversion.
Wearing the lion. No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it because I would like to be, I have my thoughts about things, and it's great to have someone come from a different angle, because stories are, that's something that's so magical about stories and reading and books, is that it's like it's really up to the reader to take what they take from it and what it means to them, and how they interpret it is really a private relationship between the reader and the book, or the story. And
I completely agree.
Yeah, and that's one of the most wonderful things about reading, and something that I always really, really appreciate for myself is that, it is very subjective, and how someone might interpret something also can be different than how someone else interprets it. And like I wouldn't even mind if somebody created a story about Medusa as if they could figure out a way to keep her alive within the original source material. Like
Mm-hmm.
Perseus didn't actually kill her. It was like it
It
was
was a
like some,
trick.
it was a trick. It was a mirror. It was a this. I mean, it's like there, you can
Ha-
find another way. It's
yeah,
just the kind of
has to
wholesale,
it has to be done
taking,
well.
yeah, or just, like vampires. Oh, now they're aging and having babies, or now they're now they're
Yeah,
they're able to be out in the, like some of them are able to be in the sunlight. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like one of the most important things about vampires is that they have to be only at night. I mean, it's things like that. Just I'm just like, I
yeah.
just
I
lost.
I find that I find it really interesting. Everyone's pet peeves about books, and so when I tell people about this book, I'm like, I'm very picky about retellings, like fairy tale or
Right.
mythology, and so I'm like, well, it's, I mean, to me, good if I'm praising one.
Right.
Um,
Cool.
back to the actual topic at hand. Sorry for the
Oop.
diversion.
Oh no, no
Um,
worries.
so can you share with us a little bit about your writing process?
Sure. So I am the kind of, I'm like, I call myself a kitchen timer writer. It's hard for me to sit still for more than a couple hours at a time. So I will just, an early morning person. So when I'm actively drafting, I get up really early and I set a timer, and like I don't move for whatever the hour or 2 hours that I have. And sometimes I'll do a word count, but I just kind of will write through a whole draft. And I'm not a big outliner. Like I will do a really quick kind of, crappy first draft just to get through the whole story and see if I can get through the whole story. Stories kind of come to me kind of pretty much fully, not fully baked, but it's like I can kind of see the whole story like in broad strokes. And then I'll just write so that I have a draft to see if I can get through the whole thing, and not only still be interested, but also that I can get through. Like, yeah, I actually can see my way from start to finish. And then, then after that, I'll like usually put it aside for a while and mm, come back after like a month, or depending if I'm working on something else too, and then read it over again. And then at that point, I'll like make an outline, kind of, if that makes sense at all. So
Yeah,
it's like I want to get the whole first draft out just so I tell myself the whole story. And I just write it really quickly. And occasionally I'll use like longhand. I'll like use, really just write on like legal pads, but I have horrifically bad handwriting. And I mean, it's like laughably bad. I mean, the harder I try to make it good, the worse it is. And so sometimes I actually literally cannot understand my own handwriting, and that's frustrating. So I definitely, more often use a computer and draft, and I usually try to write uh, like a whole chapter, like every day. It's like, okay, chapter, and like end, and I try to end in a place where it's like, and then the next thing happens, and like the next day it's like, oh, okay, I've left the people in this situation. What happens next? And I'll go on to the next thing, and yeah, and then after that I'll spend more time. I'll come back, I'll read through it, I'll look for like all the big issues of things that don't make sense. And then I'll really make an outline of, trying to sort of see like if it stands up, if the story stands up. So and then it's just sort of draft after draft. I just literally just have like different layers of, I'll put it aside, come back, and like, okay, now I'm gonna fix these things. And then the next time, now I'm gonna work on this character, or oh, the pacing is off. I'll like work through a series of just like I would call sort of not bite size isn't the word, but manageable tasks. Like I'll create a plan and an outline for the revision. Like, all right, this is what's happening. This is what I'm going to fix this time. And then the next time I'll read through it and I'll be like, all right, now I'm going to fix this part. So that's mostly my process. And I don't I like to write in order. Like I like to sort of write in order of things so I can feel like momentum ebbing and flowing, as opposed to picking out like like some people will write certain scenes first, and I kind of feel like, wow, if I'm jumping to this scene, like if I'm like starting on page 50 because I really want to write the like romantic scene or the fight scene or the conflict scene, it sort of tells me that the whatever comes before that, I'm not that interested. So
Ah,
I really have to think about it. So I kind of have to, as I'm writing, I'm like, how interested am I in what's happening? And is it holding my interest? So that's important to me as part of the process.
that's really cool to hear. I feel like a lot of people when they're reading a book, they don't often think about the fact that writing is so much work. Writing is work.
Yeah, it is. It is a lot of work, and especially the early pages, and I think especially with writing books that are I don't really, I like the voice of younger characters, but I don't think of my books like someone asked me recently, was like, "Oh, so you're a YA author." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know if I'd really call myself that. I just really call myself an author, and I've written this book about this character because this is the character that spoke to me at this age for this
Hmm.
story." And then, I mean, those are the characters that speak to me, and they just happen to be in whatever age range they are.
Yeah.
So uh, I mean, I would definitely write an older book if I had any adult characters that interested me, but I like
Yeah.
reading books like that, but somehow adult characters writing from an adult perspective doesn't really interest me
Yeah.
very much
No,
right now.
it's no fun being a grown up.
Uh,
Who would want to be a grown up?
yeah, and but I feel like writing for younger audience, just, at my MFA, it's like I realize that, I mean, young people they'll just stop reading your book. I mean, it's like they have no qualms about throwing a book aside or putting it down or just like, I don't know, I'm not going to read this. And I feel like the more mature you get as a reader, the less likely you are to do that. So I feel like a lot of you just have to be, I think you have to be more careful with your work writing for a younger audience because they're not going to give you 100 pages to get into your book. It's like
Hmm.
they might give you
Yeah.
a page or 2 pages.
Yeah. That's a
And
really
then
good point.
I mean, I have friends, adult author friends who are like, "Oh, well, you got to give me 50 pages, to like get into my book." And it's like, "Really? Do I actually
Yeah,
have to give you 50 pages?"
I definitely have come to books where I'm like, it shouldn't have to. I think actually that happened for me with my mother loves the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo books.
Hmm.
And I don't have any opinion on them, but I did remember she told me, "Oh, it takes you about 100 pages to get into it." And I was like, "That's too many. That is far too
Yeah.
many pages."
Yeah, it's a lot of pages. And I have read books like that for sure. I mean, I read like just all over the map, but as a writer, I don't feel like that would not be my go-to plan.
Yeah.
Like, wow, I'm just
Your
going to
time
give
is
you,
valuable.
I'm going to give you 100 pages of backstory, and then we're going to start the story. And it's like,
Hmm.
that's probably not going to work. So I'm aware of that as I'm writing. I'm
Hmm.
definitely not a fat writer. I'm like, some people say, oh, I'm a fat writer. Like I have to write, hundreds of pages before I figure out what I want to say. And I'm
Hmm.
more of a thin writer where I'm just like, this happens, this happens, this happens, and then
That's really cool to think about.
so.
And when it comes to the story that you have written with Kat, is there a main something that you would like, a message or a theme or a hope that you would like the readers to take away from the book?
Well, I think I would like them, when someone says like, oh, when they turn the final page, it's like I think I would like them to, let out a big exhale of satisfaction, like, she figured it out, and that they feel satisfied with the ending, and that they were rooting for her all the way, and they were glad that
Hmm.
she ended up where she ended up, and that it maybe might make a reader feel more powerful in their own ability to think through their own choices and realize that they have power to make choices. And um, also the fact that the book deals with her kind of mixed culture. I hope that for some, and I did have one young reader say this to me, that they really liked the book. She's half Korean, this reader, and she just said, this book made me feel seen because I don't feel that attached to my Korean culture, and sometimes that's makes me feel really disconnected from my family. And I think that's something that I really realized writing this book, was that there are probably a lot of people who have what I call, maybe coming from sort of a hidden second culture, where they have family in Europe, or family, in somewhere in the Spanish countries, where they don't speak Spanish, and they maybe don't feel that connected, and they would like to feel more connected, and to find ways to do that. And that's something that I'm hoping that readers will take from that. Like, wow, there are access points, and I can talk to my family. I can ask questions. I can feel closer to my whole family by having conversations that, when I was that age, I just didn't think of having those conversations. So I kind of hope that might spark some conversations there. But anyway, so does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think that's
Okay.
wonderful. I think that, all we can hope for is for our art to have an impact on somebody. And that sounds like it had an impact on that reader. I know you said you are a big fantasy fan as well. Will you be writing any fantasy books in the future?
Well, I've sort of, I do have another book coming out in another year. I had another manuscript that I was excited about, and it had sort of a timely piece of it, so it needed to come out in 2026. And it is, I would call it fantasy, but it's sort of paranormal, because it has a spirit possession element. So it's spirit possession, high school theater, and
Nice.
there's an element of a character, finding her power through a relationship with a spirit
Very cool.
who happens to be a celebrity, a very big celebrity.
Oh my goodness.
So
Okay, we'll have to wait and see who that celebrity is.
I know. I'm not sure how much I want to talk about it yet. It's
It's a little
very
sneak
soon.
peek.
There'll be a little sneak peek. It's someone who has a 100th anniversary of a birthday in 2026.
Oh, and I have no clue. I have no clue. I'm not very good at knowing famous people. My mom's really good at that. She would know.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, we'll see. That'll be we'll start talking about that probably in another, in the late fall and early winter. We'll start talking about that.
That would be exciting. And so I wanted to also ask if there are any books that have had a big impact on your life as a writer, fantasy or otherwise.
Oh gosh, so many books. So obviously the D'Aulaire's Book of Greek Mythology, I lived in that book as a child.
I have that one.
I love that
book.
One
too.
I still love
yellow.
That book. Yep.
It's yellow with the cherry. Yes, I had that one too.
Great pictures. I just acted out those scenes and just loved that book so much as a kid. And then I just think, you think about impact. It's certainly there's so many great books that I've really loved. But when I was in 6th grade, I remember my 6th grade teacher giving us Judy Blume's it was a new book at that time, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. And I remember reading that. It was not part of our school curriculum. It was just, she had that book, and she had another one of Judy Blume's books called Then Again, Maybe I Won't, that had kind of a boy coming of age element. And she just brought the books into the classroom and said, I think you guys would like to read these. And I remember reading that book, Are You There, God? And just thinking, wow, this is really a book about, I know this girl. I am this girl. And that was kind of a first time where I really felt that. I mean, I felt like there were a lot of characters I related to and I liked, but that was the first time it was this is really just about a pretty regular girl who's just trying to figure some stuff out. And that was meaningful. And then I think in 10th grade, so back in the day, library binding books, I mean, you work in a library, so you've seen them. They're just plain, no cover. It's just a plain yellow cover. And I remember getting a copy for school, we were reading Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice, and the teacher handed the books out. They were all just plain cover. And I just thought, oh my God, what are they making us read now? This is going to be so boring. And just falling in love with Jane Austen and realizing how judgmental I was as a 10th grader about what I like and what I don't like. This is for school. This is for me. And realizing how there were so many books that may not appeal to me in general, but that you can be surprised. You can be so surprised every time you open a book. So that was very revelatory. And then another one that I think about a lot is that book by Mark Haddon, The Curious Incident of the Dog in the
yeah.
Nighttime.
Mhm.
And I think as a writer, that book was one of the first books I read where I just marveled at the narrative voice of that book, how he created this character who, Christopher Boone, who's just this, first person point of view. You're in this kid's head he's, autistic and has a very particular view of the world. But the way Mark Haddon had the other characters speaking to him just built out the recognizable world. And it was just one of the most first real examples of a novel really showing me what this narrative voice could do without telling me.
Mhm.
It was just people. This is the one character. You're in his head, first person, and then this is what people are saying to him. That's showing me his world more the way I would see it. So I don't know if that makes sense, but it really was so powerful as a writer, going, wow, and he's not telling me anything. I mean, he's not saying like, oh, here's my dad. He's a regular guy. Let me tell you how he behaves. It just
Mhm. I'm a
they
really
just
big I'm a really
go
big
ahead.
fan of show over tell in fiction as well. I
Yeah.
get very frustrated when there's too much exposition too early in a book, and suddenly
Mhm.
it's like, well, this is where I am, and this is what happens, and this is how the magic works. And I like it when you explore it through the character's day. So I totally agree on that aspect.
Yeah. So I think that book, I just think about it a lot, like, wow, that was so magical. And there's actually another book. It's not a YA. Well, these aren't all YA books. And,
It's fine.
and the other one is like, I'm a huge Holly Black fan. I love her books like so, so, so much. I've read them all. I've listened to them all. I've met her. I love her. um, her, her book Tithe was the first kind of urban modern fairy tale, and I just love her work. I just fell in love with it. It was just so, and that book Valiant, I adore the way she
Mhm.
created like these characters who are like using fairy dust to make sort of a narcotic. It was like, oh my God, this is
Yeah.
like how, I mean, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Taking something that is there, fairy magic, and using it in a way that is so contemporary and so believable to me. It's like, of
Yeah.
course, this is what these people would be doing. This is
Yeah.
brilliant.
I
So
love
I
Holly
love
Black.
her.
Yeah. We kind of claim her because she's from our area. She's from like northern New Jersey.
Oh, really?
And her books really show that. I'm like, yes, this woman grew up in blue collar New Jersey for
Yeah,
sure.
you're so right. I mean, like the shores, that first book,
Mhm.
Tithe, her characters go to the shore and they're just,
Like
yeah, I
that's
love that
Seaside.
book.
That is Seaside
Yeah.
Heights. Totally.
Yes. So I love that. And I love her, I love her, I don't know where they go, The Folk of Air,
Mhm.
the graphic novel she did, Kith, was
Yeah.
it Kith
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Kind. I love that. She just, I love all her stuff.
She's wonderful.
And I'm really looking forward to her latest book. And I'm also like a huge Cassandra Clare fan. The Shadowhunters. That's like the only. She ruined me for series though. I gotta say,
Mm.
Cassandra Clare. Her books have completely. I'm like under the weight of all the pages. It's like I can't read any other series because it's like, oh my God, I got like 1,000. How many 2,000 pages to
Yeah.
read with her new series coming out? It's like
Have you
I
read
have to
any
wait for it.
have you read any books by Laini Taylor?
Oh yes, I love Lainey. I love that Daughter of Smoke and Bone.
Yeah. I
Yes, please.
I one of my absolute favorites of all time, and I have met very few people that have read them. But I recently got a coworker
Really?
to read them. And I think it's been like I think those books came out in like 2010 or something. So it was a long
Yeah,
time ago.
I guess they are kind
And
of old.
but she flew through them and then she recommended them to another friend of hers. So we're keeping the cycle going. And
Yeah,
I
I didn't.
know
Yeah.
from her Instagram that she's working on a new book. We don't know
Oh,
what it
good.
is yet, but
Yeah,
it's in the
it's
works.
funny. I read all those books, and this is funny too, even with Cassandra Clare. And it's like nothing about them, but it's like I'm such a huge Shadowhunter fan, but I didn't like go instantly to her adult books, the
Hmm.
Swordcatcher for
I don't
Cassandra
know that
Clare.
one.
And same with Laini Taylor. She came out with another, I don't know if it's a
Oh,
duology,
Strange
Strange the
Dreamer.
Dreamer. Yeah, I don't,
Excellent.
Is
It's
it good?
excellent.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'll have to give that a try. I just kind of missed it and just wasn't. It's like I love those other books so much, but sometimes it's almost like feast at the like too much chocolate cake. It's like, whoa,
Hmm.
I just ate all your chocolate cake. And
Yeah.
now I need a palate cleanser. But so that I probably have to give those a try. I did love those Daughter of Smoke and Bone. Those were really, really good. And
They were so unique.
I'm also a huge Maggie Stiefvater fan, but I only love some of her books. Some of them I really don't love.
Which
So,
ones?
well, this might be shocking. Scorpio Races is one of my all-time favorite books of
Okay.
like all time. Love that
Hmm.
book. Absolutely. Met her.
I haven't read it yet. That's on my
Oh gosh.
bookshelf.
Oh, I'm
It's on my
envious of you.
bookshelf.
It's so good. But I'm not a huge like I didn't love her werewolf books.
Hmm.
So
I
that's just me. I just
Yeah.
they just it didn't quite work for me. And but on the other hand, I loved her Raven Boys.
Yeah.
Love
So
those books.
I've only read the first of the Shiver. I read Shiver, and
Yeah,
I thought it
Shiver.
was fine. It wasn't my favorite, but I didn't. It got a lot of hate too, and I didn't think it was as bad as people were saying either.
No,
Raven Boys is one of
it's
my
not.
absolute favorites of all
Yeah,
time. I
I
love
love
Raven
those
Boys.
books. I
They
love those
recent
books.
they recently released a graphic novel version of the first book. It's very
Oh
good.
gosh, oh gosh. Well, I'll probably have to get that. Yeah, I just loved those books. Yes,
It seems
Scorpio
like we
Races and Raven Boys love,
yeah.
and then even the her early books, and she had some fairy urban like
Hmm.
Lament and
Yeah.
Ballad. You know, I didn't love those books either. Those were her really early ones.
Yeah.
So, but I think she's a fantastic writer. And I'm gonna read her adult book. I haven't read it yet, but I'm in my huge, massive pile of to be
Yeah.
read books. But
What about a grungy urban fairy like Melissa Marr, Wicked Lovely?
Yeah, you know, I love those books too, but I found them, I think it was just all the court politics stuff
Mm,
kind of dragged me down a little
I
bit,
get
even though
you.
I loved the world and I love the characters, the descriptions. I did like the one she did, I think it was called Ink Exchange.
Yeah.
That was a little bit sort of a companion. I think it was a
Hmm.
bit of a companion book, but I think I got a little bogged down in the world, even though I really
I
liked the
could
books and
I
I
could
did
see
read them
that.
all.
Yeah, I've only read the first two because I read the
Uh-huh.
first one in high school or middle school and I really liked it. Then I returned to it
Hmm.
as an adult. It seems like we have very similar taste in books, you and I, which is really exciting.
Yeah, it is
But
exciting. It
I
is
could talk
great.
about books forever, and I'm going to go over
Right.
our time if I do.
Okay.
Um, so my last question and more about books is there are there any specific, we kind of talked about this already, but specific YA books to recommend to listeners? You kind of
Uh,
said a few already, but if there's any
I
more.
know, I've so many, so many. Okay, so I did make a list. So, okay, for young teen lit, I'm gonna give a shout out to a good friend, Kristen Nilsson, her Worldwide Crush book. So these are very Judy Blume and they're really fun. She just came out with Scott Fenwick Diaries. So it's two books, Worldwide Crush and Scott Fenwick Diaries, and they're just adorable, funny, really great for seventh grade, sixth, seventh grade age. I love anything by Allison McGee. She's just a beautiful writer, and I love her book. It's called What I Leave Behind is one of my most favorites, and that's strictly it's a YA title, and I think every page is like 100 words, so it's very structured in a way, but it's beautiful. Let me see. Anything by Holly Black, we already said. Anything by her. I really like Nettie Okafor's Akata Witch.
Oh
I
yeah.
think is just very cool. Kind of a, I don't know, I almost want to say it's sort of a African inspired Harry Potter kind of story that I
Mm.
really liked. Um, Anne Cardinals, this is horror for, you know, I don't read a lot of horror, but I enjoyed this. You've Awoken Her was her recent title by Anne Cardinal. Um, and another book by a Nigerian author, Rima Onaseta. It's called How You Grow Wings.
Okay.
And it was just such an interesting story of these two sisters in Nigeria. It read very dystopian to me, but if that's the way, if that's like contemporary and that's how a lot of the culture works in Nigeria, wow, that was very powerful and so different and eye-opening to me. So that was a really cool book. So, and the Scorpio races, yeah, I'm gonna
Mhm.
recommend that again. So, yes, it was hard to come up with. I looked at your question, I was like, oh my gosh, so many books.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, a lot of books.
Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much. Are there any final notes, anything you'd like to say regarding your book or anything else before we wrap up?
Well, I just say that, I really enjoyed writing Cat's Creek Summer. I loved exploring a character at that time in life, sort of between, I think that I've been reading that stories about kind of 13, 14-year-old characters are maybe more and more, but kind of few and far between, so that some librarians and teachers have been really looking for books in this age group. And so I'm hoping that readers will find it, and that it was just really, I'm just really glad to have it out there, and to be able to share a little bit about like my background and how it's affected my writing process, and looking forward to the next one. So it'll be exciting. Yeah.
But thank you so much for joining us. And if anyone listening would like to read Cat's Creek Summer, you can access it via your library, or you can purchase it online, I'm sure. Without further ado, we will see you next time. Bye.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us today. Be sure to check out the Ocean County Library's website for more podcasts and events. All titles mentioned in today's episode can be found through the Ocean County Library, free with your library card. Until next time, happy reading.